I used to believe in fairy tales. That was before I married a man who looked like a dream and turned out to be my worst nightmare. My name is Vanessa Whitaker. On the outside, people saw a polished wife of a wealthy commercial negotiator, George. They thought we were the perfect couple, stylish, smiling, living in a beautiful home with all the luxuries you could imagine. But behind those locked doors, I was fading. I played the role they expected: graceful, supportive, silent. For 10 years, I put my dreams on hold, my career ambitions tucked in a drawer somewhere between his business meetings and golf trips. George made me feel small, like I was just a shadow in his spotlight. And I took it, because I loved him. Or maybe I loved the version of him I created in my head. The truth? He never saw me as an equal. I was a beautiful accessory to parade around at functions and tame behind closed doors. I told myself I was lucky. I lied to myself for years. But everything started to change the day I caught that text message on his phone. It wasn't even hidden. "Can't wait to see you again?" From someone named Ellie. The way my stomach dropped, you'd think I was the one cheating. That moment was the first crack in the glass. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I smiled. I kissed his cheek and told him dinner was almost ready. That's the night I stopped being his wife and started becoming something else. That was the night I decided I wouldn't just leave. I would destroy him. Slowly, quietly, piece by piece. From that night on, I started playing a role, just not the one he thought. I was still the perfect wife, smiling in silk robes, pouring his whiskey the way he liked it. But inside, I was taking notes. Every late-night phone call he whispered in the bathroom, every business trip that didn't add up. I tracked it all. I wasn't careless. I played the fool better than he ever imagined. While he thought he was 2 steps ahead, I was learning how to destroy him without ever raising my voice. I began speaking less and listening more. Men like George thrive on thinking women are too emotional to be strategic. He didn't know I was building a war inside my head, one move at a time. I opened a private bank account using my maiden name. Every week, I transferred small amounts of money from our joint savings. Nothing that would raise alarms, just enough to prepare for what was coming. I even downloaded a secure app to store screenshots of everything: his emails, receipts from hotel stays he never told me about, and even voice memos of his calls when I'd leave my phone recording in my handbag nearby. I wanted a record, not just to protect myself. I wanted proof when the time came, proof that the man who humiliated me could never lie his way out of what he did. And then came the affair with his assistant. Her name was Ellie. Young. Blonde. Everything I used to be before his words aged. Me faster than time. That was the final straw. I knew I couldn't just leave. I didn't want alimony. I didn't want sympathy. I wanted revenge. The kind of revenge that makes a man wake up in a cold sweat for the rest of his life. I could see Morgan's confidence start to falter, just slightly, just enough to know she sensed the storm coming. I leaned forward, my voice dropping so only she could hear. "You think this is all about money, don't you? About your son's wallet keeping me comfortable. But you're wrong." Her sharp eyes narrowed, daring me to continue. "This isn't about what he pays for, it's about what I've earned, piece by piece. Every late night, every sacrifice you never saw because you were too busy playing queen of the castle." The room seemed to hold its breath. Charlotte was watching me with wide eyes. Emma looked tense, and Adam avoided Morgan's gaze altogether. Morgan's fingers curled around her glass, knuckles white. Her voice was icy when she spoke again. "You forget your place, Claire. You should be grateful to be part of this family." Grateful? I smiled, a slow, deliberate smile that didn't reach my eyes. Grateful for what? Being a secret? The shadow behind your son's success? I could see the flicker of doubt cross Adam's face, and I pushed harder. "Do you know what it feels like to be invisible? To be someone's secret shame? That's what I was. A mistake you all pretended didn't exist. But I'm done hiding." Morgan's breath hitched, and for a moment I thought she might lash out. But instead, she said quietly, "You've made a dangerous enemy." I didn't flinch. I just smiled wider. "Good, because now it's my turn to make you afraid." After that night, everything changed. Morgan's icy facade cracked just enough for me to see the real fear underneath, the fear of losing control. She started watching me differently, like I was a storm about to break loose. But I wasn't just any storm. I was a hurricane she never saw coming. I began gathering little pieces of her past, secrets that whispered behind closed doors, secrets she thought no one knew. The more I learned, the more I realized how deep her lies ran. Every whisper, every hidden truth was a thread I could pull until her perfect world unraveled. I wasn't reckless. I was patient. I smiled at family dinners, pretended to be the forgiving wife, the supportive partner. But inside, I was planning, calculating every step. I knew I couldn't rush this. Revenge isn't a firework. It's a slow burn that melts steel. I found myself staying awake late into the night, scrolling through old messages, uncovering phone calls she'd hoped I'd never find. The betrayal ran deeper than I imagined. Not just to me, but to everyone she claimed to love. And then came the day I found the bank statements. Hundreds of thousands moved from our joint account without a word. That was her mistake. Because I had proof now. Proof that Morgan was not just a liar, but a thief. I wanted to scream, to confront her right then and there. But I swallowed the rage and smiled to myself instead. This was bigger than anger. This was war. And I was ready to win. I knew confronting Morgan head-on would be a mistake. She thrived on chaos and drama, and giving her that would only make her stronger. So I played the quiet game, the waiting game. Every smile I gave her was a lie. Every word was a calculated move. I watched her make calls behind my back, heard the lies she told our friends, painting me as the villain. But I had something she didn't, a secret arsenal of truths that could destroy her. Days turned into weeks, and I started working behind the scenes. I met with lawyers, private investigators, anyone who could help me build my case. I collected every scrap of evidence, text messages, emails, recordings, each one like a dagger aimed at her carefully crafted reputation. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about justice, about showing her that betrayal cuts both ways. But what surprised me most was how hard it was to keep my own emotions in check. Every time I thought about the years wasted, the nights spent crying alone, a fire burned inside me. I wasn't just angry, I was broken, and that brokenness fueled me, sharpened my focus. I refused to be the victim, not anymore. And so, I waited. Patient, silent, watching Morgan spiral, unaware that the trap was closing in. The woman who once controlled my life was about to lose everything. Her secrets, her lies, and most of all, her power over me. The day I finally confronted Morgan, I was calm, colder than she ever expected me to be. I didn't storm into the room screaming or crying. No, I let my silence do the talking. She sat across from me, that smug smile still plastered on her face, completely unaware that everything was about to come crashing down. I slid the folder across the table, a thick stack of proof that exposed every lie she told, every betrayal she tried to hide. Her eyes flickered just for a second, but that was enough. I saw the cracks start to form in her confident mask. She tried to laugh it off, to act like it was nothing, but her voice cracked, and her hands trembled ever so slightly. I knew then that she was scared. Scared of losing the life she had built, on deceit, scared of the truth finally catching up with her. I told her everything I had discovered, the lies, the stolen money, the manipulations. I spoke slowly, deliberately, making sure every word hit its mark. Morgan wasn't just losing control. She was unraveling in front of me, and the power shifted. For the first time in years, I wasn't the broken one. I was the one holding the cards. As she sat there, silent and defeated, I felt a strange mix of triumph and sorrow. This revenge had cost me so much, but it was necessary. I wasn't just fighting for myself, I was fighting for every woman who'd been silenced, betrayed, and left to pick up the pieces. And now, the pieces were finally falling into place. After that confrontation, everything changed. Morgan vanished from my life like a shadow slipping through my fingers. But the damage was done. She had no choice but to step back, her empire of lies crumbling silently behind her. but the scars she left on me didn't disappear overnight. I kept replaying every moment, every betrayal, wondering how someone so close could turn into my worst enemy. Yet, beneath the anger, I realized something deeper was stirring, something I hadn't felt in a long time. Strength. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving on my own terms. I threw myself into rebuilding what she had tried to destroy: the career, the friendships, the trust in myself. It wasn't easy. There were days when doubt crept in, when loneliness wrapped around me like a suffocating fog. But every time I reminded myself why I fought so hard, to reclaim my life from her toxic grip. The people who had turned their backs on me before now watched from a distance, uncertain. Some whispered, some admired, but none dared to cross my path. I learned to wear my scars like armor, each one telling a story of survival and resilience. Morgan had thought she could break me, but she only made me stronger. Still, revenge isn't clean or simple. It leaves stains, on your heart, on your soul. There were moments I questioned if this path was worth the cost, if I was losing myself in the process. But every time I looked in the mirror, I saw a woman who refused to be a victim. A woman who fought back with everything she had, and that was worth everything. Even as I rebuilt my life, a small part of me kept watching, waiting for Morgan to make her next move. I knew she wasn't the type to disappear quietly. Her betrayal was too bitter, her pride too wounded. There was a cold calculation behind everything she did, and I was certain she was planning something, lurking in the shadows like a predator ready to strike. I began to notice subtle signs. Calls that went unanswered, whispers in the office, fleeting, glances from mutual acquaintances who no longer dared meet my eyes. It was as if a storm was gathering, invisible but inevitable. My friends warned me to let go, to move on, but my gut told me this wasn't over, not by a long shot. I started gathering information quietly, pulling threads from the past to see if I could unravel whatever scheme she might be weaving. There were late nights spent scrolling through emails, piecing together conversations, finding clues in the smallest details. Every discovery was like fuel to the fire inside me, anger sharpened by the need to protect myself and those I cared about. The deeper I dug, the more I realized Morgan's betrayal was part of something bigger, a web of lies that extended far beyond me. She was involved in secrets that could ruin many people, not just me. And suddenly, my fight for revenge took on a new meaning. I wasn't just protecting my life anymore. I was exposing a darkness that had been hiding behind smiles and handshakes. But I also knew one wrong move could destroy me. The stakes were higher than ever, and the game had just turned deadly. The night I found the first concrete proof was when everything changed. I sat alone in my dimly lit apartment, the city's hum muffled by heavy rain against the windows. My hands trembled as I opened the file Morgan had tried so hard to keep hidden, a detailed ledger showing not only her lies, but the countless people she had manipulated. Every entry was a dagger, cutting through the facade she wore so effortlessly. Reading. Through those pages, I felt a mix of triumph and dread. Triumph because finally I had what I needed to bring her down. Dread because the consequences of exposing her would ripple through so many lives, some innocent, some guilty, and there was no turning back now. Morgan wasn't just my enemy. She was a force that had woven herself into the very fabric of my world, and pulling at her thread risked unraveling everything. I thought about confronting her directly, but the smarter part of me warned against it. Morgan was dangerous, and any reckless move would give her the upper hand. Instead, I crafted a plan, slow, careful, precise, one that would strip away her power piece by piece until she was left with nothing but the truth I held in my hands. My nights became consumed with plotting, my days walking a tightrope between normalcy and the storm brewing beneath. I felt the weight of every secret, every betrayal, pressing down on me. But through it all, a cold fire burned inside. Revenge wasn't just a word anymore. It was my mission, my reason to keep fighting when everything seemed lost. The question was, could I survive the fight I had chosen? Or would Morgan's next move be the one that destroyed us both? The day I finally faced Morgan was the hardest, and yet the most freeing moment of my life. I stood before her, not as the scared, betrayed woman she had once controlled, but as someone reborn, stronger, smarter, and fueled by the fire of justice. I saw the shock in her eyes when I revealed the evidence I had gathered, the lies, the schemes, and the people she had destroyed along the way. She tried to deny it at first, weaving the same web of deceit she always had. But I held my ground, every word cutting through her defenses like a blade. The room felt heavy with silence, broken only by the sound of her trembling voice, realizing the game was over. For the first time, Morgan wasn't the one holding all the cards. I watched as the truth unraveled her carefully built world. People she thought were loyal turned their backs. The power she clung to slipped through her fingers like sand. And I, the woman she had tried to break, became the one who shattered her empire of lies. But revenge came with its price. I knew healing wouldn't be instant, and scars from the battle would stay with me forever. Still, standing there, I felt a peace I had never known before, a peace that came from reclaiming my life, my voice, and my future. Morgan's downfall was not just about revenge, it was about survival, about proving that no one, no matter how powerful or cruel, can destroy the spirit of someone determined to rise again. And as I walked away that day, I knew this was only the beginning of a new chapter, one where I wrote my own story, with strength, hope, and freedom guiding every step.